For being here. Mayor Pat, City Council members, fellow school board members, Dr. Scott, and City Manager. I'm not sure, did I see City Manager Daniels? Yes, I do. And all those present tonight. Thank you for joining us. We will now call to order the meeting for the ECCL Governance Committee, the regular meeting, and the date is November 5th, 2020, and the time is currently at 5:32. May I please have an opening roll call?
Okay, I'll read from the order. Member Christian Patz,
I'm here.
Member Ali Medina,
Present.
Member John Bowders is absent. Member Scott Donahue,
Here.
Member Diane Martinez,
I'm here.
Member Brenda Collins,
I'm present, thank you.
Member Cruz Vargas, yeah, he's signaling here. We couldn't hear you though. Looks like you're unmuted. Member Susan Donaldson,
Here.
Member Lauren Salazar, Member John Van Gitten.
Present.
All right.
Okay, thank you. I'd now like to open it up for public comments, please, for any non-agenda related items.
Oh,
So Pedro, are you seeing any hands raised in the Zoom room? Pedro?
I'm checking right now, sorry.
Okay. Yeah, I just checked. I don't see any hands raised. So we'll give it a couple of minutes for public comments.
We do have one.
I'm trying to speak. I'm trying
Okay.
to speak.
So just a moment, is that a hand raised or are you on the phone?
I'm on the phone.
Okay, so I just want to see if there are any emails received for public comments.
I've not received any public
Okay.
comment.
And I would like to see if there are any public comments by phone.
Yes, me.
Okay, you have the floor.
Okay, I understand this is Cruz Vargas's last public meeting in Emeryville. He's moving out of town apparently. This is his last meeting. And so I'd like to ask a rhetorical question. What did we do in Emeryville to deserve Cruz Vargas? This guy has been incredibly bad. He does not have Emeryville values. As a matter of fact, he's extremely right-wing in a progressive city of Emeryville. Mr. Vargas spoke out against our minimum wage ordinance and publicly spoke against it, an extremely popular thing in Emeryville. More than 70% of Emeryville residents support it. He worked against Measure C, the affordable family housing initiative that's also extremely popular, backed by 74% of the residents. Mr. Vargas worked against Measure C, affordable family housing. Why would a school board member work against affordable family housing? It's beyond me. He's just a right-wing ideologue. Mr. Vargas worked to get a SRO, a school resource officer, part of the schools to prison pipeline. Mr. Vargas worked to get an SRO in our district, and districts across California are abandoning SROs because it's just corrupt. And it's a way to put brown, dark-skinned children, move them straight into prison. And Emory alone is the only school district still seeking an SRO, thanks to Cruz Vargas and Brenda Collins also, who signed on to that. Mr. Vargas worked against naming the gym after Steve Dane, the transgender teacher fired by the district a couple of decades ago. He proposed that we should name the gym instead of after this man that was fired, very inspirational man. Instead, he said we should name the gym after Steph Curry, who has no connection to the school district. And Mr. Vargas has refused to issue an apology to the family of Steve Dane, and he has refused to work on that at all. And so he's incredibly anti-LGBT. queue. And, we have to ask ourselves, like, I've noticed that John Bowders, the only out gay council member that we have, or elected official that we have in Emeryville, doesn't come to these meetings. Have you noticed that? It's because of people like Cruz Vargas. I'm thinking, I don't know. I've never asked Mr. Bowders about this, council member Bowders, but yeah, I'm thinking maybe it's because of Cruz Vargas, incredibly anti-LGBTQ elected official. And further, Mr. Vargas lied to the city council at a city school meeting a couple years ago about the number of parents who supported an SRO, and he was caught in a lie. So he basically is a liar, and he's super right wing. He's against all these measures and directives that the people of Emeryville strongly support. These progressive measures and things. And I don't know what we did to deserve this guy. The problem was he ran for a school board saying he was none of these things. He gave people the impression he was a progressive. And
Okay, thank you. Pedro, are we recognizing any other public comments?
Don't see any at this time.
Okay, with there being none, I'd like to move on to item 4, approval of the May 7th, 2020 regular minutes, action minutes.
So moved.
Is there a second?
I second.
Okay, that was moved by, was it Mayor Pats?
Yes.
Thank you. And second by Councilmember Donahue.
Yes.
Okay, roll call, please.
Member Pats,
Yes.
Member Medina,
Aye.
Member Donahue,
Aye.
Member Martinez,
Aye.
Member Collins,
Yes.
Member Vargas,
He nodded yes.
okay. Member Donaldson
Yes.
and Member Van Geffen.
Yes.
Okay, thank you. That'll take us to 5, city and EUSD staff information items. 5.1. I think, is that Ms. Doris Hu?
Yes.
Okay, you may have the floor. Thank you for being here this evening.
Hi, good evening. My name is Doris Yu. I'm here this evening to present the 2021 first interim O&M budget, which is as of October 31st, 2020. And then can we have somebody to pull up the worksheet? Probably will be small for somebody, but anyway, this is a worksheet that we prepared for tonight. And on the far right column, you will see that is the working budget for the O&M budget. And on the top part is pretty well showing you the funding that we are projected to receive for this school year. And you can see the highlight of the working budget is we got the total working budget reduced from 1.389 million to 1.306 million because of the pandemic. But because of the drastic decrease on the third-party rental, which you will see under the funding, the revenue on the second line item, from projected 250,000 in the original budget, now down to 100,000. And that is the reason why, meanwhile, even though the budget is reduced, you will see the increase on the share that we have to put in the O&M budget. So that's the highlight of the budget for tonight. And then the bottom part of the spreadsheet shows you the overall expenditures under the O&M budget. And pretty well the only significant change, even though it's not a significant fiscal impact, is regarding a reclassification of a custodian into a maintenance worker. And we are going to look into a $2,000 increase for the month from the January 2021 to the June 2021. Other than that, all the other expenditure items, they are pretty well aligning with what we adopted back in June. So any questions on this budget?
Okay, are there any questions for Ms. Dorsu?
I have a question.
Okay, you may have the floor.
Just on the materials and supplies, is that increase representative of the new cost of the air filter cycle being changed more frequently? Or is that not accounted for in here?
Is Jody in here?
Yes, I'm here, and I could answer that question. Good evening. Meeting members.
I need a helping hand.
So yeah, you do see an increase in the materials here, and that does include the purchase of the filters that we're now required to upgrade to due to the pandemic. So that is included in here.
Excellent. Thank you.
You're welcome.
Any other committee questions? Okay, with there being none, I'd like to open for public comments. Pedro, are we seeing any public comments via the Zoom room or by phone? I see one by phone, I
Yep.
believe.
Yes.
Okay, thank you. You have the floor.
Okay, so regarding the budget, it's very creepy to me that John Van Geffen, a known liar, is now being in control of this public money budget. It just makes me feel very uncomfortable. I mean, it's public money, taxpayer money, and he's got control of it, at least partial control, and he's been proven to have lied recently. And so that mixture is really, really creepy to me. It makes me feel extremely uneasy. Mr. Van Geffen, I pointed out that Mr. Van Geffen had told, I pointed out at a public meeting, a school board meeting, that Mr. Van Geffen had told the assembled throng at a 2016 meeting when he was running for city council that if he were elected to the council, he would put on every single agenda for 4 years, revoking the minimum wage ordinance. And I reported that to the school board. And then as a point of personal privilege, after my time was up, Mr. Van Geffen called me a liar, said I had lied about that. He had never said that. But there are 3 council members that are witness to this, that were at this meeting. It was at Little City Emeryville Candidates Forum in October of 2016. 3 council members heard him say it. So he lied when he said that I had lied when he had said that he would overturn the minimum wage ordinance with every chance he could get, just like the Republicans 57 times tried to overturn Obamacare. Mr. Van Geffen said he would use every meeting to overturn the minimum wage ordinance to try to do it. So that now that he's been caught lying about that, I'm just extremely uneasy. It's this very uneasy feeling that, public money is being looked out after this man that is a liar. And he's also extremely right-wing, similar to Cruz Vargas, maybe not quite as right-wing as Cruz. But it just makes me feel very uneasy, and then he's a liar. So I'm requesting that those of you, the elected officials that are hearing me that aren't liars, could you please have some extra due diligence to watch out over Mr. Van Geffen, who I don't believe can be trusted with public money. Like I said, I would like to hear from you guys that, that you'll be looking out to make sure that the money is spent in a proper manner, and that just help to relieve this uneasy feeling that me and other people have about Mr. Van Geffen. Thank you very much.
Okay, thank you for that comment. Pedro, are we seeing any other public comments for 5.1?
Do not see any at this time.
Okay, well, that was information only, and with that being, we'll move to 5.2. And I believe, Pedro, you have the floor.
Yes. Wanted to share, as you see being projected here for this year, we estimate that we hope we can get $100,000 in third-party revenue. We just started getting some third-party rentals with the Alameda County lifting some restrictions. It started about a month or two ago. We started getting field rentals, the pool rentals, and we actually just started today, actually, a gym rental. As long as they're following the protocols, they're allowed to rent out those spaces. So we're hoping to start building up. Year to date, we only have about 4,000. Unfortunately, there was credits from last year because from March to June, we had to cancel and anybody who had paid. So they had some credit into this year. So far it's only about $4,000, but we hope to continue to do that. We're hoping we still have one church group. We did lose one that hopefully will come back once those restrictions are lifted. So that's my report on third-party rentals. And I'll be happy to answer some questions.
Okay, thank you, Pedro, for that presentation. Are there any questions for Mr. Jimenez from the committee? With there being none, I'd like to open for public comments on item 5.2. Pedro, are we seeing any public comments?
Not seeing at this time.
Okay, thank you. I'm not sure if anyone wants to have committee discussion, but I didn't open it up last time on 5.1. Sorry about that, but is there any committee members that want to have further discussion on 5.2? Okay, with there being none, let's move on to action items. 6.1, approval of O&M budget. And I believe that is Ms. Dorsey for 6.1.
Yes, the staff is requesting approval from this council and the board members to approve the O&M first interim budget.
Okay, are there any questions for Ms. Dorsey?
I have a question.
Councilmember Donahue?
What if Alameda County has us go into lockdown again? Is our budget prepared to absorb this? Do we have contingencies in case we really do not get our third-party rental income?
Right now, the working budget that we prepare as of October 31st is basically preparing the school to go back to a hybrid model starting in January 2021. And regarding the third party, I will let Pedro to speak into it because that is a budget projection that provided by the city.
Definitely, if we do go into shelter in place and we cannot rent out anymore, then the $100,000 projection will impact both the district and city and having to put out more of a share for the O&M since there'll be less to offset it.
So if I could just, Councilmember, this is Christine, the city manager. If I could just address your question, I think the question you have is there a reserve? The answer is no. The share of the city and the share of the district would go up to make up the difference in the loss of revenue. So I'm just saying what Mr. Jimenez said a little differently, but that is, and you see that between the original budget and the first interim budget. That's effectively what happened when the projected revenue from facility rentals went down, then the relative contributions of the district and the city went up.
One possibility is maybe some of the expenditures can go down because if we're in shelter in place, we're not utilizing all the utilities and materials and contracts.
Okay, thank you. Are there any other questions, committee questions? I'd like to open it up for public comment, please. 6.1 only. Pedro, I'm seeing a public comment, I believe, from the phone number.
Yes.
Can you hear me?
We most certainly can. You have the floor.
Can you hear me?
Yes. Caller 1281, you have the floor.
Okay, I understand that the school district owes the city some large amount of money, and I've forgotten how much, for years of back, from not paying for back due monies owed to the city for the city apparently picked up the tab for the school district for the Emery go-around payments. And I want to know the status on that, and is that how that's going to affect the operation and maintenance budget? Are payments being made to the city from the school district, or was it one shot pay? Do they pay all at once, or? And I want to know if that affects the O&M budget, if there are payments being made, and I just want to hear if there's hear what happened with that, basically. So if you could, it would not be a Brown Act violation to just clarify that aspect of the budget, the payments, the in-kind payments to the city from the school district for the Emery ground. If somebody could just do a quick discussion of this, a quick explanation, I would appreciate it. Thank you very much.
I
Okay,
think
Mr.
you
Public-
are,
Go ahead, Mr. Ursu.
okay. I think you're referring to the PBIT payments that the district makes every year to the city. We pay the payments each year, and as far as I know, we are current on the payments. So it is on the ECCL side parcel, it is under the O&M budget. But again, we are current as of today on all the outstanding PBIT payments. And then we just received the one for this year, and the budget is already accounted for the payments that we're going to make for this year. So we are current status on all the PBIT payments.
Thank you, Mr. Ursu. Are there any other public comments, Mr. Jimenez, that we're noticing?
No, I do not notice any other.
Okay, committee, would you like any further discussion on 6.1? Would there be none? Is there a motion?
I'll move.
Okay, motion by, moved by member, school board member Vargas. Is there a
Seconded.
second?
Seconded.
Okay, school board member Van Geffen, second. Roll call, please.
Member Pats,
Yes.
member Medina,
Yes.
member Donahue,
Aye.
member Martinez,
Aye.
member Collins,
Yes.
member Vargas,
Yes.
member Donaldson,
Yes.
member Van Geffen.
Yes.
Okay, thank you. Let's move on to 7, update from the administrative committee. And I would like to turn over 7.1 to City Manager Daniels and EUSD Superintendent Scott.
Pedro, there we go.
Do you want that one or the other one first?
I think probably, Dr. Scott, is it easier to work from the second one that just shows the increases?
That probably might be the best one to go with first.
So this is, you had asked, I think last year, board members and council members about the schedule for contributions to the capital replacement, and that is actually set forth in the agreement The previous document, which is the smaller one, is actually the schedule of items that are scheduled for capital replacement over I think it's a 20-year, maybe longer lifespan, and it was negotiated and agreed to, and they're listed by time and year of replacement. What's in front of you is the schedule of contributions that ramp up in year 6 to achieve a dollar amount that is estimated to be sufficient in the subsequent years to replace those items or repair those items or do significant major maintenance on those items that are set forth in the schedule. So for the first 5 years of the agreement, you'll see the relative contributions of the district and the city, and then the total amount generated over that time. And then in year 6, the relative contributions of the entities increase, fairly substantially to generate a total of, is it 1.36, Pedro?
Yes.
And then if we could see the previous document, which we probably can't because it's too small, you would see what are the items that are scheduled to be replaced. There we go. Thanks, friend. In the 5 and 10 year timelines. So you can see that at the 10-year timeline, there are obviously a number of things that need either major maintenance or replacement that add up to that 1.365 million. Dr. Scott, is there anything you wanted to add on that?
No, just to add, for the school board members, we have brought these numbers forward. Doris Sue has included that in the multi-year projection. So we have been able to see that increase. And with regards to the replacement schedule, when it was originally created, it was a template. And so we've taken some time to go through this document to look at it, and we'll continue to do that work to see if this is indeed the items that we would need to replace at the time. But we know that we will anticipate having to have this reserve. So it's pretty much close, but there might be some variance in terms of what needs to be replaced when.
We're happy to try to.
What year are we on now, currently?
Finishing up year 5.
So next year, from 20,000 to 273,000.
Correct.
Has any
For 5 years.
has any additional consideration gone into? I mean, you got $500,000 on the field and $500,000 for painting. Has anyone kind of done a look-see to see if we're on track to still need all of that, or are we potentially able to push that back further?
You mean by year 10, board member?
Yes.
I would project that by year 10, as Dr. Scott indicated, most of these things will need to be done, if not earlier.
Thank you. Are there any other questions from the committee?
Have we expended any of this funds yet?
Pedro, I don't think we've hit the capital fund, have we?
I think the one thing we are looking at right now is pool covers.
Right.
Other than that, I can't recall what, maybe there was some equipment. Was that right, Jody or Dr.
For the
Scott?
windows, I believe.
Yes.
So instead of having the service be contracted out to wash the windows, we did buy the equipment so that could be done internally by staff.
And then, given the cost of the graffiti coating, are we looking to do that this cycle? And or has the cost of it significantly changed given the last 5 years, all construction costs have gone way up?
While we don't have the significant numbers, the numbers exact at this moment, we have spent some money to do painting, but it has not been to the extent of 100,000. So just speaking to the items that are listed here, there are items that have cost more. We've had to think about our preventative maintenance for instance. So things have changed differently. But to answer your question, Mayor Pats, I do not believe we spent 100,000 as of yet, but we can go back and get those firm numbers.
So I want to clarify my question, if I may.
Okay.
So the graffiti coating is not painting. It's a coat on top of the plaster because the plaster itself is colored. And if we don't do the coating, then it's more difficult to get the graffiti off. And so my question was twofold. One, do we still have the funds to do the estimated $100,000 maintenance? And two, have we, because it's due now, it's worth the 5-year part, have we started putting this out to bid, or do we have a contract already in place? Because I suspect what was $100,000 5 years ago is going to be more now.
Maybe I'll refer to Jody Clark with regards to your question.
Sure. We've been, I do not have this anti-graffiti graffiti coating on a project yet. Given the pandemic, I've just been caught up with the plans for reopening. But I think it's from my evaluation of the condition of the existing exterior plastering and stuff, it's still in fairly good shape. We don't really have issues with it per se, but it's definitely something that we plan to look at to move into maybe a summer project next summer, and just to have that done and have it ready to prevent the graffiti. Right now, we've been taking the approach of just kind of we're still in a position where we have the paint available, so we've been doing touch-up painting to over graffiti after we attempt to clean it. So does that answer your question, Mayor Pats?
It does. I get a little concerned when, because they were very thoughtful when they scheduled this, and that the lifespan of the coating was such as it is, but you've answered it, so thank you.
You're welcome.
Okay, thank you. Are there any other committee questions?
A quick question for me. So based on the schedule of contributions, the school district then contributes 77%, right, to that fund?
That's correct.
That is correct.
Okay, any other committee questions for 7-1? Okay, with there being none, we'll go into 7-2, and I believe
You have public comment on this one. Or hand raised.
Okay, I'm sorry, public comments on 7-1?
Yes. Get
Okay,
a capital review of the capital program. Well, there's a lot of other capital expenditures you haven't talked about, and I would like to get an answer here and now. What's happening with these? There's 4 items. The first 3 I'm going to mention that the taxpayers have already paid for, but we haven't gotten them. So why not? So the first one, there's 4, and the first 3 first one is a public library at the ECCL. We paid for that. It was in the bond, in the Measure J bond language. It was one of the itemized things. Public library. We're still waiting for it. What's the status on that? Last I heard, we just have to be patient. It's coming. In addition, the city of Emeryville about almost a year ago, voted the 2020 we're going to put getting the public library at ECCL is in the top 10 things that the city council wanted to get done. So we're almost finished with 2020. Where's our library? So I would like to an answer to that. The Brown Act allows for you to give a quick answer on that. The next item is a jobs training center at the ECCL, open to the public, jobs training center. We paid for that. The public paid for that, and we still haven't gotten it. Where is it? Where's the job training center? That was also on one of the Measure J bond items enumerated. So we paid for that, and to not do it is it's unethical and immoral because it's not doing what you said you're going to do with our money. The third thing that we paid for already are solar panels on the ECCL. It's in the bond, enumerated bond list of things that we're going to get if we pass Measure J, which we did, as you know. And we didn't get our solar panels. Where are they? And the last thing is not enumerated in the bond language. However, it was talked about ad nauseum in the public meetings before Measure J, and that was a cafe associated with the public library. Where is our cafe? So where's the library? Where's the job training center? Where are the solar panels? Where's the cafe? Brown Act allows you to tell me. Please tell me. Thank you.
Okay, so we'll go ahead, and it looks like there's no response to the line of questionings. And with this being public comments and not a question and answer session, then we'll just go ahead and move on to any further discussion amongst the committee on 7.1. Okay, with
I have a question.
Okay, Member Donaldson.
Can someone clarify for me where and when decisions like a library, proceeding with a library, when would those discussions take place, and when would decisions like that be made? Being relatively new to this committee, I'm unclear as to when that type of discussion would happen.
Okay, so is there anyone on the committee who has an answer for that, or is that something we should address later?
Madam Chairperson, I'm happy to add my 2 cents to that if you'd like.
I would love it. Please take the floor, Mayor Pats.
Yeah, I think the member of the community is confusing things that might have happened and the money was ideally going to be used for versus things that were absolutely promised. When the city prioritized having a library, not as part of the ECCL, but in general, we have taken care of that. We have a library. The city of Oakland is officially our library. The school district, I believe you guys still maintain a library for the kids. We had hoped that it would be a joint project with the cafe, but because of budgeting mistakes, they were value engineered out. I don't know that there's enough space. But those were project goals. And I have to go back and reread the bond language, but I think they were along the lines of may, not absolutely won't. What was the other one? Library, cafe. There was a third one he mentioned, and I forget what it was.
Job site training. Job training facility.
Oh, job training. Yeah, and the job training has been, I believe you guys rented out to a teacher training program for a college before COVID hit. And the project itself, they were very proud of the program of bringing, I think there was 2 students from the district who participated as interns when the project was going up. So I don't remember reading what the job training promise was, but that was one of the potential uses for the site. And while I don't think it's been used to its full capacity, there definitely was some job training going on, both during the construction and up until COVID hit. You guys were doing a very good job of renting out in the evenings to help both offset cost and develop new educators.
Okay, thank you for that clarity. Any other committee discussion or clarification? Okay, so this was informational only. We'll go ahead and move on to 7.2, and I believe that is also City Manager Daniels and the USD Superintendent Scott.
Chair Collins, at the last meeting in May, the committee had asked for a review of the use matrix, which the administrative committee should be looking at in the spring every year. We have done that internally. It's been a little challenging because the use matrix now, during COVID is a little bit different than the normal use matrix. We're happy to try to answer questions tonight. but might be better prepared to give you a more solid use matrix in the spring. But Dr. Scott, don't let me take all the time if you have anything to add.
Well said. Nothing to add. Thank you.
Okay, so we are expecting 7-2 to come back to us for more conversation in the spring.
Yes, the way the agreement works, the use matrix and the methodology for establishing the use matrix is set forth in the operating agreement. We look at it by the terms of the agreement in the spring at the administrative committee level, and we are continuing to do that as we speak. If there are specific questions that anyone has about the use matrix, we can try to answer those tonight. That's why we did go ahead and put it on the agenda.
Okay, thank you. Are there any committee questions for 7-2? Okay, with there being none, I'd like to open it for public comments on 7-2.
You have a raised hand.
Okay, you may have the floor.
Can you hear me?
Yes,
Can you hear me?
we can.
Okay, now regarding the matrix, I understand the ECCL matrix, that is the ratio of school district payments to city hall payments. And insofar as that they intersect with regard to the items I talked about, the public library, not a school library, jobs training center for the public, not for teachers, for people walking in off the street. You didn't mention solar panels, and then of course the cafe. Now, Mayor Pats just mentioned that these were not the city and the school district are not on the hook because they're not legally mandated because the word shall wasn't used, instead it was may. But I went to all those meetings for all those years, the ECCL meetings, the design meetings, and we were promised those things. Now, I'm not talking about suing the school district and the city for you guys not doing these things. So it's not a legal question. It's not a question of that you are required by law, but you are ethically and morally obliged to do it because you said you took our money and we gave you our money. We voted for it with the understanding that that's where we're going to get those three things: library, the public library, the public jobs training center, and the solar panels. And you took our money. And so it's really, really shitty to now say that, oh, well, we don't legally have to, so we're not going to do it. That's how like cynicism is fostered and bred in Emeryville with attitudes like that. So yeah, I'm sure legally you don't have to do it, but certainly ethically and morally, you do have to. You basically, by saying that, and I appreciate Mr. Pat's admitting that you guys have no intention of following through with this. I appreciate that finally you're coming clean on this. But basically you hoodwinked the school district and the city hoodwinked the voters back when they voted, and all the citizens when we went to all those meetings. And it's very, really, really, just like I said, it's a shitty thing to do to the people. And this is why, a lot of people fall by the wayside, why there's not, public engagement. It's not very big thing in Emeryville. It's because of, shitty little things like this. And it just makes people cynical. And, I think that you should, the challenge is on you to provide these three things, and the cafes would be nice also, although that wasn't as expressly said that you were going to do it. But the other three, I think it's incumbent upon you to do what you can, continue to do what you can now, or insofar that you might have done up till now.
Okay, thank you. Any other public comments? 7-2.
I do not see anyone else.
Okay, thank you. Committee, would you like to?
If I may take a point of personal privilege.
Oh, yes, please do.
Thank you. First, to this public speaker, I appreciate you at least tangentially tying your comments to the item we are discussing. I do genuinely appreciate that effort. But I did look up the text, and the library was not in the bond measure, but it does say adult ed and other things. So just to clarify that solar panels are in the bond language. So just to reiterate that the library was not part of the bond, but the other things mentioned were. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Any other committee comments or further discussion? Okay, this was informational only. With there being none, we'll go ahead and move down into the future agenda items. 8.1 preliminary solar update. And that looks like it'll be a future agenda item. And any announcements from our members or comments? If you want to raise your hand, or, okay, I see Councilmember Medina's hand raised. Hi.
Yeah. In terms of solar update, I mean, I don't know if this is preliminary because we've had some discussion at this committee about it before. Will that be at the next meeting? Because I thought it was, my impression from the last time we discussed it, we'd be discussing it at this meeting. So will that be scheduled for the next meeting specifically?
Oh, yes, Member Medina, that will be presented at the next meeting. With the onset with the pandemic, COVID, and trying to reopen schools, our staff has been pretty tied up with that. However, we do see solar as a priority as well for the district. And so our own O&M Director, Jody Clark, does plan to present to the committee in May.
Great, thank you.
Okay, thank you. Any other announcements, member comments?
I have an announcement.
Okay, Mayor Pats.
I try not to talk about political events during this meeting, but just this is a special one. Stonewall is having their Pride to Power event tomorrow. So that's the East Bay Stonewall Club. And again, I only mention this because there is a very substantiated rumor that a member of the council will be mixing drinks that evening virtually, and he may or may not be wearing a shirt. So I think I want to get that out there and encourage as many local people to go and see that council member mixing drinks. There's a rumor that the mayor will be there, and I can substantiate that if that is true, he would be wearing a shirt for the benefit of all. Thank you, Allie, for being relieved by that. And then this is, I think, under the category of a humble brag, but I was at my son's school today. It was we've been doing food deliveries for families in need, coordinated in Oakland. And I just want to take a minute. I know that the school district has been handling food and providing meals for the students who are needing that. You guys are what would be called a Title I school. So I know there's a lot of kids in need. And I don't think we can ever appreciate enough. And I got firsthand experience how hard it is to do that work. And so I want to just take a moment and say to you and your staff, amazing work delivering those meals. I was exhausted at the end of my 3-hour shift. I can't imagine doing it 40 hours a week. So my hat is off to them. I commend them. I think I said this last time in our last meeting, but I don't think it gets said enough. So if Dr. Scott would share that with them, I would appreciate it. I'm just so impressed by that hard work and valuable service that they provide in these difficult times. And those are my announcements.
Thank you, Mayor Pat. I'd like to also ditto Mayor Pat's sentiments and thank everyone for all the diligence during this time. The work is not easy for any of us, and it's well appreciated by all of us. Any other comments by any committee members or announcements? And with there being none, I want to also take a moment to thank those that pulled this meeting together, and thank you for all your diligence. And with that being said, this meeting is adjourned. The time is 6:21. Thank you, everyone, and have a great week.
Thank you. Good night.
Good night.
Good night.
Thank you.
Good night.
Night, everyone.
Thank you. Good night.